In the little house, much like in your own home, I suppose, a fire crackles and throws a soft glow over everything within its reach. Shadows dance excitedly across the wood floors as the days have begun to retire early, exhausted from the extended hours of summer. The newly arrived season has swirled in with a magnificent change of wardrobe, turning the verdant foliage to a rich gradient of chocolates, amber, gold, vermilion, and brilliant crimson, all painted with a bold hand across the landscape, nature's handmade announcements that autumn has arrived, and with it, welcome respite from the cloying heat of its previous personality. And in the gloaming hours, beneath the comfortable glow of the flames with our herbal and botanical books before us, we have come upon several alarming stories which the pixies thought it prudent to share with you without delay. Well, almost without delay. Dear friend, because before we can go any further in the telling of these stories that deal with some of the most disreputable villains in the botanical world, a proper warning was the only thing the pixies would accept. Therefore, it must be firmly stated at the onset that the sinister tales we are about to relate to you are ones we would rather not. And if you are of a nervous disposition, or your temperament lends itself to nightmares or flights of fancy, it might behoove you to simply find a good book, filled with cheerful anecdotes and amicable characters to while away a pleasant afternoon instead.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I dream on to someday find that vintage love.
Please consider liking the video if you enjoy it. And if you haven't already, subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell icon to be notified when we release new videos. Thank you.
Our story begins with a bewitching perennial whose tall spires of delicate bell-shaped purple-blue flowers presented an intoxicating vision in cottage gardens coupled with sophisticated English roses and the easily recognized foxgloves. The individual bells with their heads hanging down and hoods pulled close, in what can only be presumed to be shame or a cleverly affected air of innocence, give the seductive spires the appearance of a congregation of praying monks, and for that reason this flower has been nicknamed Monkshood. But it is not its only epithet. This wickedly pretty plant, whose playground extends to the far corners of the earth, growing wild as well as gracing potagiers and landscapes the same, masquerades as a close cousin of the elegant delphinium, but with a far deadlier bite. She is most commonly known as Wolfsbane, though her proper name is Aconitum nipalis, and even 2 milligrams of exposure to her poison personality will cause an agonizing death, taking the long way through respiratory paralysis and heart failure to the ultimate result of asphyxiation. The efficient little neurotoxic and cardiotoxic beauty was thought to have originally been named, and here we presume no one will be surprised, by the ancient Greeks. As we are all aware, Pliny the Elder and Dioscorides made a full-time job of relating their thoughts on all things plant-related, and a good deal more to boot. Both aforementioned men used the plant in their medical treatments to reduce fevers, migraines, stomach aches, and various other minor complaints, making sure to dilute it well in wine. We are fairly certain administration of this medicine came with the advent of an ancient version of the black box warning, which included death in exchange for relief from your minor ailments. When not being used to cure or kill one's patients, Wolfsbane was found to be also an extremely useful poison to apply to arrow tips, used to put down aggressive wolves and win any argument against your enemies in a permanent sort of fashion. So revered was the poison/medicine by the Greeks that it was said to drip from the fangs of the mythical three-headed dog Cerberus, who hailed from the gates of Hades and who purportedly sported faces only a mother could love. Meanwhile, Cleopatra is said to have kicked back a cocktail after Octavian's rise to power, which was derived from the Wolfsbane plant, to bring about her dignified death in the face of Roman defeat. She did not survive that particular cocktail hour, although there have been rumors that she was imbibing in rough company, having invited serpents to her final party. Herein lies evidence of the wisdom of choosing your companions and pursuits wisely. If you find a Wolfsbane cocktail on your menu, you are definitely in a questionable establishment, and for your own good, should find the exit forthwith. Jumping forward in history to the 20th century, Wolfsbane had not changed her nature or the company she kept. During World War II in Buchenwald concentration camp, the Nazis laced the meals they served with the poison derived from Wolfsbane in order to examine the toxicity in the organs of those who did not survive the Nazis' cooking, and followed up this heinous experiment with trialing Wolfsbane-tipped bullets, all in the name of science. A solemn reminder of the atrocities which have been perpetrated on innocents under the guise of research by men and women whose consciences have decayed. Within the historic record, folklore swirled around Wolfsbane, aka Monkshood, aka Aconite, and so on, like a dark cloak corrupting everything it touched. However, in the case of Wolfsbane, its legendary redeeming quality lay in its remarkable ability to repel werewolves and vampires, proven entirely successful by the noticeable lack of werewolves, blood-sucking villains, and politicians wherever anyone was using the plant to that end. However, if you were overly enthusiastic, and who could fault you during the political season, and accidentally happened out to collect your protective plant under a glowing full moon, there was a very real chance you would be transformed into a werewolf yourself. Or, God forbid, a politician. But let's be honest, if you're out collecting Wolfsbane by moonlight, you had to know that wasn't going to end well. It would seem the best course of action in the case of Wolfsbane is to admire it from a respectful distance, and if your physician prescribes Wolfsbane and wine for your digestive troubles, find a new doctor immediately. The Pixies agreed that Wolfsbane should stay out of their potager with its wicked ways, and as a matter of practice, no flowers or plants should be ingested randomly without complete knowledge of the consequences of doing so, and they are not wrong. While we'd like to be able to end this tale here, we cannot, as our next ghastly encounter was with a spicy haunt, his grim companion, and a terrifying leafy fellow who goes simply by X. In 2009, someone in the India Defense Research and Development Organization had an idea. We suspect it was brought about by a personal experience with a little pepper referred to as the ghost. With a Scoville heat rating of 1,001,304, this pepper could make a grown man weep if he happened too close to it. The grand idea was to turn this pepper into a military-grade weapon. Perhaps, our unnamed culinary weapon inventor posited, we could take the ghost pepper and turn it into a grenade to lob at our fellow countrymen when they are crowded together and unwilling to disperse. Now, I wasn't witness to this presentation, so I cannot be sure this is the exact way it went down, but creative license and all. Anyway, presumably the rest of the organization thought this idea brilliant, and thus the military conscription of ghost peppers was born. The ghost pepper held the world's record for the hottest pepper and most useful non-lethal deterrent, until in 2011 a new pepper hit the market, whose bite was compared to the scorpion, and thus named the Trinidad scorpion Butch T. But this pepper's stay at the top of the list was short-lived, as Ed Curry, an American chili pepper breeder, was hard at work upping the ante. In his South Carolina yard, he brought his new leafy monster to life by breeding a St. Vincent habanero pepper with a Naga pepper hailing from Pakistan. The precious little bundle of evil they begot was named the Carolina Reaper and boasted a 1,641,183 rating on the Scoville scale, which, if we were honest, is similar to the hurricane category designates that top out at 5, because after that, total destruction is assumed, and any number following is redundant. Once you hit Reaper level, your body and soul briefly separate, as your soul decides whether it wants to continue on this journey with a body so short on good decision-making skills. Before the Indian Army could get too excited, however, Ed went back to work, unsatisfied with a pepper that could cause hallucinations and drop grown men to the ground with a single bite. He was going for something a bit spicier, and with this level of determination, it is not a surprise that in 2023, Ed hit pay dirt, and his newest little devil ripped the title away from the Reaper. The newborn Little Pepper X measured in at a 2.6 million on the Scoville scale, and upon ingestion, it bestows intense digestive distress, heartburn, and regret upon its eater. At this point, humanity should hope Mr. Curry is taking a little break from his pepper breeding pastime to allow the world to cool down a bit. The capsaicinoids in these peppers are densely packed and are responsible for their heat levels. The phenolinic compounds that share a vanilloid ring cause neuropeptides to be released, which are responsible for modulating neuroactivity, having a governing effect on tissues in the gut, muscles, and heart, and causing increases in growth factor and synapses creation in the brain, which is all fine and dandy until you are on the floor writhing in pain, so discretion is the best part of valor. And while it's true that capsaicin is known to enhance thermogenesis, increase fat oxidation, and improve energy, too much of a good thing is simply too much. If you're a masochist and are planning to rush out, right after you finish this video of course, to procure a Reaper, Ghost, or Pepper X, there are a few safety tips you should at least adhere to. I promise you that not doing so will leave a lasting impression on you and anyone or anything you come in contact with. Wear the gloves. I cannot emphasize this enough. Good cook's gloves. Don a long-sleeve shirt and place a pair of goggles or glasses over your eyes, and by all that is holy, work in a well-ventilated area. From personal experience, I can assure you that any cutting board that comes in contact with these peppers will hold the heat for an unfortunate amount of time. Slow cooking any pepper with capsaicin will intensify the burn, while cooking over very hot temperatures will break down the capsaicin and moderate the heat intensity. Should you accidentally, or otherwise, consume these peppery military-grade devils, milk is your best friend. Casein, the protein in dairy, acts to break down and neutralize the capsaicin and works alongside the fat in the milk to bring relief. Water and alcohol, on the other hand, will make you reflect on all your life's choices. In the little house, we have grown ghost peppers and a variety of hot peppers and turned them into fermented hot sauces with great success. We also include 1 or 2 habanero or hotter peppers in our fire cider, which is sipped year-round whenever anyone is feeling under the weather, or we simply need a pick-me-up. So go forward as you see fit in dealing with these spicy aberrations, armed with the knowledge that what doesn't kill you will probably make you stronger and hopefully a lot wiser. Having come this far in our unpleasant storytelling, you were perhaps hoping for this to be the end of the story. Oh, but there's more.
Oh no, not more.
One could hardly end this tale without mentioning 2 more nefarious characters with well-earned reputations and a storied past. First, there is the stinging nettle, or the Urtica dioica, a plant you wouldn't want sidling up to you in a dark alley. This wicked weed grows wild across the United States, Asia, North Africa, and North Europe, wherever it can sink its feet into a bit of moist soil. As with most fiendish villains who utilize the darkness to move about and commit dastardly deeds, stinging nettle runs beneath the cover of soil through the rhizomes, popping up in the most unexpected of places. Despite the cheerful appearance of the plant in full bloom with its happy little white flowers, which are wind-pollinated, stinging nettle does not wish to be touched. The leaves and stems are covered in fine hairs, filled with a chemical version of fire and brimstone as a rebuke for molesting the plant's person. Your reward for not respecting this plant is a painful, itchy, often raised rash that isn't easily abated. Stinging nettle does not come to a fight unprepared, as its hair-like needles, called trichomes, inject its opponent with the toxins known as tartaric and oxalic acid, as well as formic acid, a chemical component found in ant and bee stings, while the neurotransmitters acetylcholine, histamine, and serotonin combine to create a painful experience that is unrelenting and not in a hurry to resolve. At 6.5 feet tall, fully grown, and in its stocking feet, you might be inclined to give this plant an entirely wide berth. But under the right circumstances, stinging nettle also has some winsome ways as well. And the right circumstances are cooked or dried and made into tea, tincture, or cream, never raw. The young leaves have been valued as a blood builder for centuries and are prized in their helpfulness in removing uric acid and relieving arthritis and gout. It is a highly nutritious food when added to broths, teas, or just cooked down well like spinach. Herbally, it's been used to detoxify the body by neutralizing toxins while acting as a powerful anti-inflammatory and improving the flow of blood throughout the body. It is excellent to improve women's reproductive health in both youth and as a woman grows in wisdom. And in our home, it has been long used for allergies, colds, strengthening, and cleansing the kidneys. It is recorded that the stings from the nettle plant were used by Julius Caesar's soldiers to keep them awake and alert through the night. I can't help but wonder if maybe 40 or so Roman senators had previously served in Caesar's army on night duty before the Ides of March, and saving the Republic threw them into a stabby mood. Just saying, nettle has a history. And then there was Socrates, and the last of our cautionary tale. In February of 399 BC, the Greek scholar and philosopher Socrates was accused of impiety and corrupting the young people in Athens by introducing religious concepts that angered the Athenian society. And after a robust trial of a single day, in which he unsuccessfully defended himself, he was sentenced to death by drinking a cup of hemlock. The 70-year-old thinker and teacher refused to be assisted in fleeing, and ultimately died from his stubbornness and a rich brew of hemlock. While most of us have been trained from youth by a certain bunny and our enthusiastic parents to eat our carrots as it's good for our eyesights and help us grow, the same family that produces carrots, parsley, parsnips, fennel, celery, and a basket full of herbs also protects an evil at its center, poison hemlock, easily mistaken for wild carrot or Queen Anne's lace, and its twin, the water hemlock. This wretched duo are not allowed to sit near each other at the family get-togethers due to their highly toxic natures. The rest of the carrot, or the Apiaceae, or the Umbelliferae family would like to distance themselves from their deadly cousins, but the family resemblance is far too strong. Water hemlock is considered to be the most lethal plant in America, with their pretty umbrella-shaped clusters of white flowers and foliage that resembles the delicately lacy coriander and carrot. Scattered across meadows and swamps and ditches, the deceiving plant will cause death after only a few nibbles of its sweet roots that often appear as white carrots. The cicutoxin in hemlock disrupts the nervous system, causes nausea and seizures, and within a few hours, death. It is not a nice neighbor and should be avoided by erring on the side of caution if you stumble upon what looks like a happy member of the carrot family. The second of the terrible twins is poison hemlock, the little deer responsible for Socrates' death. Despite its hollow stem and speckled red spots known as Socrates' blood, it is easily mistaken as wild parsley or carrots. Its chemical compound choline is a neurotoxin that disrupts the central nervous system, ultimately leading to respiratory failure and death. Unsurprisingly, this plant is an invasive species and was introduced to the Americas in the 1800s, after which it took it upon itself to make its way into meadows, pastures, roadsides, and riverbanks across the country. As always, the best rule of thumb is if you can't be 100% certain of the plant's genus, don't go about eating it. In many ancient myths, the very presence of poison hemlock is considered a bad omen. One can assume because folks were dropping dead after encountering it. In its long history, hemlock has been used in trace amounts to cause paralysis, so that often grisly surgeries could be conducted without having to listen to your patient's screams. And in medieval England, a tasty mixture called dwale, which was made up of harmless ingredients such as bile, lettuce, vinegar, and byrony root, got its real kick from the additions of hemlock, opium, and henbane, all of which together acted as an anesthetic and was used by housewives as they cared for loved ones. But with choline being lethal in doses of a mere 100 milligrams, and the main constituent of poison hemlock, I think we may have found the real reason for increased mortality in the medieval era. A bit too much caring going on, perhaps, although we would probably find it difficult to prove at this point. It is with this warning that we wrap up this unsettling tale. Evil rarely appears to us in the ugliest forms, as it knows that if it did, we would surely reject it immediately. Rather, beauty often disguises a poison that is cleverly hidden beneath it, and requires careful discernment before being recognized. And while a thoughtful examination of a thing can lead us to being able to distinguish those things that are deadly, step carefully, as in some cases the line between good and evil is remarkably fine. We hope you enjoyed our little video and that you will like, comment, share, and even subscribe to our YouTube channel, as all of it helps us to continue to grow. See you next time.